Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lester Leavitt. I'm with the Florida Atlantic University Lambda Pi Eta Communication Honor Society. And as you've known already, the presentation today is on multimedia network, multimedia, social media. Um, and my presentation is about a principle which I'm probably going to carry on with in my master's program. But right now, I'm still a student. I'm just like all of these other young kids here, except I have to pretend to be young rather than actually look young. Um, my thesis that I was working on last year and continue to work on almost continuously is something called the juggler principle. And it's about restoring democracy to the echo chambers of the post-electronic age because, and I guess pretty much we all can agree that we're beyond postmodernism, we're now into post-electronic age. So that's kind of where my thinking is. I use the term juggler instead of comparative studies student or public intellectual, but it could be, it's a synonymous term which can be interchanged. But juggler is easier and more catchy, and it has this cute little diagram that I can use. And the reason I call him the juggler is because he has a lot of work to do. He has a lot of balls to keep up in the air. The problem which I've been working with is social justice advocacy and civil rights activism from a resources plus message perspective. I work in nonprofit. My master's is actually going to be in nonprofit management. And everybody used to say collaborate, but they burned all of their volunteers out when they had everybody try and collaborate, because it takes a lot of work. It's a huge commitment for a common mission. So it's going to have a lot more success if people just work at a level of cooperation rather than collaboration. And moving along quickly here, what I want people to understand in my work is that I want the juggler to come into a community, come into an organization and say, what do you need me to do in order to help you achieve your goals? We're not going to ask organizations to do anything more. And I'm getting to the social media aspect of this because of my own work. My own work was with gay activists in the gay community, nonprofit organizations that worked with gays, and tried to further their activism, their agenda, if you want to call it a gay agenda. But the fight for equality is really what it was. The struggle for equality has been ongoing since time began, and it continues to go on. And so what happens is we've got a ton of nonprofit organizations in the gay community, and I'm just going to use them as an example of how what their experience has been and what my experience has been working with them as it comes to social media. The 6 organizations, which I'll use as an example, but there's far more than that, but 6 organizations primarily got together and they drove a lot of traffic to each other's site, and that's what the SEO is, the search engine optimization. These guys were savvy. They knew what to do with media. Some of them have a master's degree. The lady at Sister Talk Radio has a master's degree in marketing and communications, in marketing, and she's an MBA. Towel Road, Joe My God, Truth Wins Out, Pam's House Blend, the Billarico Project. These are all names that you'll recognize. They're, as far as the gay community goes, they're the top name blogs and social media centers. They're the aggregators. And so they work together. They actually got together and said, you know what, let's drive traffic to our sites because we need to make money. They wanted to make money as activists. Several sites saw their ad revenues jump to about $5,000 a month or more over the 5-year period that they built these sites up. The traffic was primarily within the gay community. They weren't bringing a lot of traffic from outside of the gay community, which was a problem. And that's what my presentation here is going to focus on, is what happened within their own community. What happened was much of the traffic was backstabbing and infighting within the gay community. It was not productive communication. At the end of the day, they didn't even alter the discourse within our own community, let alone alter the discourse in the greater cultural elements of society at large. Nothing changed, but they did drive a lot of traffic to their sites, and now they make, $60,000 a year or more off the ad revenue on these sites. So the question becomes, what's the choice we have when we start working with multimedia and social media? The choice is that we can have people who are fighting for the microphone. Let's face it, some of these people have enormous egos. Some of them are actually wonderful people. But some of them were pretty much interested in themselves first. They wanted to make money. They were a for-profit organization. My background working with them was I was working in a nonprofit organization, and our goals were to further social justice issues And the money that would be made, of course, would stay in the nonprofit organization. So you have to decide for yourself which side of the fence you're on, because the motives are very, very different. And the motives which I'm presenting today are the motives from the nonprofit side. My juggler, back to my juggler. He's got 6 balls in the air, and I haven't got a lot of time left here. But really quickly, I wanted to tell you what the juggler's goals are so that you can understand how social networking can advance profit, or it can advance the social justice issues. They are at odds with each other. There's some ways, and this is what my thesis is actually about, is how to keep that revenue stream within a nonprofit organization without having lost the message. We want to have the discourse furthering a message of equality and social justice. So the 6 balls are, really quickly, an echo chamber. Ball number 1. We have very, in the post-electronic age, we have lost real news. We have people who are not seeking news. People are seeking affirmation for their own views. So they fall back into these echo chambers of MSNBC and Fox News and the various shades of gray in between. The other problem which we have is that we have a struggle over whether people can be equal or whether people should be free. It's a very difficult decision because freedom, from the perspective of Rand Paul, will be at odds with equality. So you can have people enjoy equality, but that impacts, if everybody's going to be equal, it's going to impact on the freedom of some who want to be radicals, racists, bigots, and that's a big problem. The disconnect, ball number 3, is that people have detached themselves from the media cloud. There is a media cloud out there now, and people have disconnected from it. There's way too much stuff in it. This is very closely connected to the echo chamber, but at the end of the day, a lot of people just disconnect and have dropped out. The other idea which we have to deal with is ball number 4, 6 campaigns for social justice. The gay agenda is a very small segment of number 4 here, ending religious-based bigotry. There's a lot of bigotry out there. Muslims have a problem with religious-based bigotry. The gay equality issues are primarily around religious-based bigotry, but that's not the only discourse that we want to work with when we talk about social justice issues. We're working with a quality of life issue. We're talking about fighting poverty and reversing materialism. We're talking about ending oppression and racism, and that's where the 1960s civil rights struggle fell into. We're talking about promoting equality for women and defending their rights, and we're talking about bringing an end to war and hate. All encompassing, those 6 campaigns pretty much capture all of the social justice issues that I talk about, and that's why they're there. Ball number 5 is the missing activists. I call them the missing activists because this is social justice. The opposite of social justice is social injustice. And healing is denied to victims of social injustice if we don't allow them an outlet to tell their stories. And they are the missing activists. I became an activist because I started fighting back against inequality after I came out of the closet and lost all of my, let's call it, white heterosexual Christian privilege. My life changed dramatically at the age of 46. I became an activist. I started telling my story. I found healing in doing that, and now I'm an activist. And that's where we need to find these people. We need to find abused women who are now healed and on their road to authentic lives. We need to find African Americans, descendants of slaves like my husband, who are pursuing their equality. It's still not over yet. These are missing activists, and we need to allow them an outlet. Ball number 6 is the 6 genres of artistic creativity. This is social media. This is what we're talking about today. What is social media? Multimedia. It is really an outlet of artistic creativity. I write. Other people film documentaries. Other people blog. Other people have podcasts. Other people have radio talk shows. All of it is media. And it all has an outlet now in social media. So that's what we're talking about, is fostering this creativity in 6 different genres. And that's what my master's thesis as ball number 6 for the juggler here. So a quick review. We've got the 6 balls in the air now, and I've got roughly 20 seconds left. I just wanted to flash through to the end here and talk about hegemony and counter-hegemony. This is what happened within the gay community. The hegemonic discourse is pretty much laid out for everybody. If you're white, if you're Christian, if you're a conservative, you're all singing the same tune. If you are an abused woman, if you're gay, if you're black, if you're a minority, if you're an immigrant, if you're an atheist, if you're poor. All of these issues, if you're against war and everybody else is for war, you're on the counter-hegemonic side of this discourse, and that's what we need to bring together. And the goal of the juggler is to overcome this brick wall of hegemony, overcome ignorance, overcome traditions, overcome these entitlement issues and thoughts and privilege. The way they do that is to try and bring all of the discourse together. And this is what was lacking in the gay community. They had a lot of traffic to their websites. They had a lot of traffic to their blogs and their podcasts. They made a lot of money in the whole issue. You know, some of them making $60,000, maybe some of them $100,000 a year. But they were not breaking through this brick wall. They were talking among themselves, driving a lot of traffic through their sites, but they couldn't even agree on the discourse. They weren't altering the discourse in any way, shape, or form. Nothing had changed in the 5 years that they had been in business, and they were still making lots of money. So in a way, I think they probably stopped working towards social justice issues because they had a microphone, they had their income, and that was what they set out to do. It's not what I set out to do. And my proposal here is that we can put social justice, social media to work here in bringing all of this message together into one focal point and break through that brick wall of hegemony. And that's the end of my presentation. I thank you very much for your time. I can take questions at the end.